topic is CPaaS acceleration. Title, How to Make It Relevant for All. So, we're here in India, 1.4 billion people. It's the average age of 28 or 27, 28, something like that. Vast messaging market. I'm going to start off by asking, rating 1 to 10, how you think the industry as a whole has done at engaging with every size of enterprise, top to bottom, here in India, and really getting, literally, the message across that business messaging is something that can really transform them. Banu, 1 to 10. 1 is absolutely terrible. 10 is, why are we even bothering to talk about it? We're rock stars. What rating would you give, and why?
Well, you are asking a binary question. It's very difficult to, give a number without actually explaining the context and the capability of different people who can contribute in different ways. For instance,
I want a number. You're evading the question already. This guy should be in politics,
okay,
not just income dancing or something like that.
I will give, considering, when we talk about inclusion, right, and when we talk about how people are contributing to make sure the accessibility is for everybody, generally we are talking about the bottom-up pyramid, right, more often than not. So I would say people are trying, but still it's 6.
Okay, 6 to 10.
So I think from a tooling and availability perspective, it's 8 or 9, but accessibility and adoption is probably 5 or 6. So as an ecosystem, we need to do better to get people more access to adapt and use. It's there. Systems are there.
Okay.
I'll say 7.5. The market is pretty aware of exactly what CPaaS is about. Maybe they don't understand what CPaaS stands for. But a lot need to be done. I mean, I say the developer community is something which is untouched yet, and we need to do a lot to that community to ensure the CPaaS keeps, growing the way it has grown over the years. So that's my take.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll agree with Tushar. I think we've done fairly well, so I'll rate 8. Yeah, so enough and more has been done. Yeah, there's scope to do better, but yeah, I think it's fairly spread out. CPaaS is well understood. And when you compare it with a couple of other markets, I think we are fairly established.
Okay, that's the point, compared to other markets, because we are talking about India here. We can talk about, because many of you, in fact, all of you, operate in markets outside of India as well. So we can open up a little bit and do a bit of a comparison as we go. What about yourself?
I think you're right, James. But you asked about enterprise. I would say that when you compare or when you look at enterprise, I would say it's 9 because enterprises reach out to consumers through digital channels, so they have to be aware. There's a lot of push that happened after the government brought in the whole digital aspect of it, financial inclusion. So it's very difficult for enterprise not to interact, on the digital channel. But I would say that there's a large segment of companies that are still not out there who have been able to adopt this. There it would be, let's say the MSMEs or the SMBs, right? There
that's what we're really talking about.
Okay, so then that's not enterprise. So enterprise is a little different. So in the SMB and MSMEs, I would say it's 5 because they're not clear. They don't know which channel to use. They get confused about, all this opt-in, data security, and other things. They're not mature enough. So for that, I think all of us here at MEF and as a CPaaS industry, the onus is on us to reach out, explain, make sure that they understand what is the right way of connecting, and also ensure that we help them in this journey of becoming digitally literate and compete with the larger enterprises. Because as an end customer, frankly, now I'm reachable. Whether you're a big enterprise or you're a small enterprise, I'm approachable. So we've got an opportunity to actually go help them. So I would say 5 on SMB, MSME, and 9 on the enterprise.
Okay.
My bet is, if you see the CPaaS market for India or globally as well, we have one of a few of the best CPaaS provider sitting around the table, all from India. So technically speaking, we are at a very good level. I will rate it as 6 because with RBM also coming to India, there is a new lot of work to be done, to be started. There is also a thing what Avnish have mentioned, about having a CDP in place. Enterprises have to yet to work on that at a very
CDP?
Customer data platform.
Customer data platform.
Yeah, the platform which can collect the data from silos of databases that enterprises have as they grow along with time, and then to centralize it somewhere so that you can initialize the real personalization. So real personalization is yet to be achieved in the market. And once we are at that level, then we can talk about multilingual support on multiple platforms. And that is when I can see that we are very at a mature level. But still, we are at a 0.6, I would say.
OK. Very varied answers. So the facts are, so MEF member Mobile Squared, many of you will know Mobile Squared provides lots of statistics about the mobile or the business messaging, let's get it specific, the business messaging market. And Nick Lane, founder of Mobile Squared, I remember at an event last year, this figure sticks in my head. It will have changed since last year. But I remember him saying because they did research, so they went to as many governments as possible. So every government has a list of registered businesses. And they added them up. And it came to, in the world, they found 306, I remember the figure in my head, 306 million listed businesses in the world. Then they looked at all the SMS traffic, the conversations they've had with practically all of you guys, your companies, and other operators in the room around the world. And they figured that less than 5% of businesses in the world were even just using SMS. Never mind RCS, RBM, WhatsApp, et cetera, They weren't even using SMS. So the fact is, and again, I'm not just talking about India, I'm talking the world, the fact is that we as an industry are not doing a great job. The fact that 95% don't even know anything about it, it's not great. So let's look at what's going on in the industry, and let's talk about India. The market for digital ads here in India, so the Meta, Facebook ads, et cetera, they haven't actually been mentioned once during the event today. But ultimately, surely, isn't this what business messaging is competing against? So, Banu, let's start with yourself. What lessons can we learn from the digital ads market? Because even the smallest of businesses, SMB or enterprise, whichever definition you use, whatever an enterprise is, even the smallest of organizations can use digital ads and is clearly doing so, given that market is worth about $400 billion annually. And our, if you want to call it that, market is, depending on who you ask, it's 1/8, it's 1/6, 1/10 of that. It's a fraction of it. So what are they doing right that we in business messaging are not doing right?
Well, again, not very straightforward answer to this question as well. Not many years ago, when in context of Indian market, when we really
it's okay, we're under attack from above.
Me.
No, it's not the microphone and it's not you, so.
Right. Not long ago, we all had smartphones. Not long ago, we had data connectivity. I'm talking about the Indian context. When you said very few people in other parts of the world, it could be relevant when people are not really using messaging or other form of CPaaS offering that good. Forget the ads, right? CPaaS is CPaaS for us. It is for us now, right? In that definition. But most people, even any of the world, they know they have to reach out to customers. So whatever channel commercially viable, or or whatever they can afford to use. So they have been using that, and that is how they have been running their shop or businesses or the reach out programs. Now, again, the learning. What we saw when the lockdown happened, things changed, people became more active, and they adopted to technology tools and the solution. They reached out to companies like us. They started to evaluate, understand how strong the value addition it could be possibly if they start to adopt the channel and the capabilities that CPaaS companies are there to give them. Now, long story short, depending on what kind of business you are in, right, and what kind of services and product you're building, specific to use case, right, that you're building for your own customers, that will decide the learning for the customers and for your own businesses.
Okay, thank you. Tushar. Oh, not going up and down the line, I'm mixing it up a little bit here, don't worry. So, Tushar, but why is it that if you look at the conversion ratio of digital ads, and if you look at Meta's, these are from Meta, 98% of Meta's revenue is from digital ads. Mm-hmm. The average conversion ratio, this was something that came up during the omnichannel event last year, was about 1.5%. You can move to SMS, it's really, really low. And you move to SMS, it increases massively. And you move to rich messaging, whether it be WhatsApp or RBM or something like that, and you triple it above whatever SMS is.
Okay. So I need to give you some stats before we get started on the exact comparison between CPaaS and the digital ads.
Yeah.
In India, we process 55 billion messages in a month on a population of 1.4 billion. Now you can compute easily what kind of messages are being sent on an individual handset. And that, when you, of course, take off a certain section of the population who are not very active on mobile also. You can work backward and see 70 to 80 messages are hitting an individual mobile phone. Anything above that can create, this channel can absolutely lose a sanctity. So you think really we can grow beyond this. We are still growing, for number one. Now, let's see even for a second that, we trust the data that, the penetration of CPaaS is pretty poor in India also. We need to do something, of course. We need to correct our approach in the sense that we can reach out to these smaller towns where perhaps most of these startups, the smaller organizations, are setting up the shop. A lot need to be done there. But on comparison, I'm not convinced. Aside the unit pricing, I think perhaps you are referring to the revenue generated by CPaaS vis-a-vis the revenue generated by the ad world. Now, we sell at 0.1 paisa. Even if I have to convert that into dollars, I don't know how many decimal points I have to go behind, to quote a number. So that's another reason. Now, of course, the industry is trying to bring some sensibilities there, trying to take the rates up so that we actually, the number looks, comparable with what, it's drawn by other countries here. But yes, a lot need to be done. I mean, still not saying that we are completely there. We have done what is required to. Of course, we need to talk a lot about the industry, talk a lot about, how we can make CPaaS accessible to the smallest of companies, startups, SMEs. A lot need to be done with the developer community, as I said earlier. We need to catch them early. We need to foster a developer community around CPaaS. So when they actually go and start working for a corporate world, they actually can bring those knowledge, the learning, to those companies so adoption becomes faster and easier.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. So Vinay, so has anybody ever thought, so if we look in the world of direct carrier billing, for example, mobile payments, you go to Germany and all the mobile operators together there have a united front, they've combined, they've come up with actually a brand name and a tagline for mobile payments or direct carrier billing in Germany, for example. And I have never, ever seen that done in the world of business messaging, that the mobile operators or all of you guys, and other people in this room, the leading lights of messaging in a country, actually club together and say, look, we've got a problem because we've got so much potential growth, but we are not getting it out to the average, for the SMBs I'm talking about. The average small and medium-sized business out there, they don't know we exist. They've all heard of Vodafone Idea, Reliance Jio, etc., but no one, it doesn't matter how big you are, whether you're a Route Mobile, whether you're a Cinch, whether you're a MessageBird, whether you're an Infobip, a GTS, whoever you are, no one, unless you are from the mobile operator or the people in this room, will have ever have heard of you. So has there ever been any thought or any initiative, whether it be the mobile operators or the industry as a whole here in India, to get together to actually come out with some statistics or something to say, look, SMS is better than whatever it is, it gets more engagement, WhatsApp. So as a whole, you work together to grow the industry. Has there been anything on that?
I can't comment on the white paper or the need. I think that's always needed, case studies, white papers. But I can tell you with partners as well as many customers here for us, I think there is a lot of collaboration to go out and make the products as DIY or product like motion, if we may call it, for an SMB mid-market to use. If I would just give our example, we have on the email side or even on the notification side, we have hundreds of customers who are online coming up. Developers, maybe digital natives tend to adopt that first. Conventional businesses are laggards and coming up for next. They'll come up and sign up and start using those products. The idea is how do we make this accessibility and ease of use more wide reach and known to people that you don't have to have a complex or you don't have to go to an operator only to get this. I think people are aware, people are using, like I mentioned, SMS, we are sending SMSs. However, when you look at the ad world, and I'll touch upon that briefly, when I'm a business or a product owner, I look at the ad world as a medium to acquire a customer revenue. However, when I look at messaging, I look at it as a medium to communicate that delivery of that product. However, conversational messaging, at least in enterprise, has changed that mindset. Whether it's RCS, whether it's WhatsApp, and you may talk other channels, it's giving a medium to say there are mediums to use to communicate and commerce with your customer. So I think the adoption is coming down through, I think like Nitin also mentioned, through enterprise now to mid-market, and it will adapt. The long tail always takes time for mass adoption.
Thank you. Nitin, practically, what kind of solutions are companies like yours coming out with that really, really make it easy for organizations of any size to take advantage of all the great stuff everyone in this room is doing?
Yes. So I think the first aspect is that we have to think from a customer perspective. Now, customer means the SMB. You talked about the ads and versus messaging, and when I put out the fact that ads are acquisition, messaging is for communication of delivery of those products and services. I think when you look at product head or somebody who wants to sell product, he's concentrating on how to reach out to the customer. Now, the ads give him a very simple opportunity that he says that, this is my segment, this is where I want to reach, get me there. But he pays a higher price because, that's a walled garden and therefore you have to pay that price to get that customer. But his acquisition cost is high, so is his revenue conversion, right? That's also high. What we have to do is give that same customer an ability to actually go ahead and do this with CPaaS. So we launched a self-serve, very easy to use platform last year called Cinch Engage to exactly do this. It's not about high-tech, IP whitelisting, creating all those IDs and everything. It's self-serve. Go sign up, get on with your messaging, prepay it. If you have larger volume, let us know. We'll get to delivery. So that's what's required for this segment. It should be easy to use. You get all channels available and deliver them safely.
Thank you. So let's move to back to Girish on the NetCore side of things and your take on regulation here in India. We know what happened. The regulator really stepped in hard. You've got the distributed ledger technology, blockchain, trying to crack down on spam, on SMS, and it's been successful to a degree, et cetera, all of that happening. So it all comes down to trust. Our small businesses, again, I'm talking about the small and medium-sized ones because this is where the real potential growth lies, ultimately for the whole industry globally. Are they put off by all the rules and regulations that are coming? And I don't know what you feel. Do you think there's going to be even more regulation in India, or has the regulator just got it right? What's your feeling in terms of, from the regulation perspective, at helping to grow the business messaging industry here?
Sure. I'll take a little elaborate answer to this one.
Yeah.
My view is a part of this industry is very heavily regulated, and this is specifically true when it comes to messaging. So I think the Department of Telecom, TRAI, I think they're doing the job fabulous. There are D&Ds in place, and I think enough and more penalties are in this place. But when you look at messaging at large, this is getting very, very fragmented. And I want to basically give you a view of how I see this industry getting fragmented. See, all this while, this industry was largely controlled by telecom operators. So if you want to do messaging, you have no other way but to basically go through the operator channel. Then came the era of OTT. Okay, so you got the likes of WhatsApp messaging, you got Truecaller and likes of them. So several messaging app, right? Absolutely no regulation. So they are self-regulated platform. Today, I mean, whether we accept it or not, but they're seriously creating a threat to messaging, right? There's no regulation, absolutely no regulation, self-regulated, but they are directly, getting into the space. So while the overall pie of messaging is getting, bigger because of, their effort to create market developments, right? So, one part of it, you said that, why is the market not, matured enough? Why is it not went to the longer tail? I think in the hindsight, when you look back, I think nothing much has been done by the aggregators. We've been busy, managing the enterprises. But when you look at Google, when you look at the Metas of the world, I think they're doing significant efforts basically to go, and the geos of the world, I think they're investing seriously, to basically, get the bottom-up market, right? So that's where they're investing. So they're investing in, the market development. The third pie, as I see, is the OEMs. So while you have telcos, which controls the customers, you have OTT, which are sitting on the customers, you have OEMs, which says that, hey, finally it's my customer. So very soon you will see the OEMs opening up API and say, hey, I will give you messaging APIs, right? So I mean, it will only get fragmented, right? Now, again, they're not regulated. It's again self-regulated. So, I mean, if you really want to basically create a level playing field, there has to be a regulation which has to basically cover up all of them. It has to cover OTTs, it has to cover OEMs, it has to, control the RCS of the world, the Androids of the world, right? And it has, obviously, there are enough and more controls on the, the operator messaging, right? So that's my view to this, right? I also believe that, when you look at SMS, so, so you asked this question a while back, that, why is in spite of having better ROIs, why are you not seeing significant investments in SMS, right? I think it was touched upon that SMS is only unidirectional. So you can only communicate. But when you look at the, the newer forms of communication, which is conversational, I think they are allowing, two-way conversations. They're allowing to basically complete the loop, right? So when I get a message and I want to basically do a transaction, SMS doesn't allow that, right? But when you look at this rich media messaging, I think the loops are getting converted, and that's where
you can have conversations there, so you can have reply paths. It's just not easy to do.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You can do it, absolutely, but it's not easy.
Look at the experience. It's not a great experience. Look at the interface. Look at the SMS interface. And look at your RCS interface. Look at the Meta interface. It's very different. Yeah. It's very, very intuitive. And I think, what is happening is that they're spending a lot of time in understanding, specific areas where the consumers are finding it difficult. So for example, they realize that consumers are finding it difficult to text, right? So they created buttons. Okay, so you can nudge the customers, okay? So they just have to basically, pick the right buttons and they can, maneuver. The other thing is now they're working on voice. They realize that maybe perhaps there's a segment which is not comfortable even with the buttons, right? So they're creating voice interfaces, right? So I think, they are doing the right market studies, consumer understanding, and investments, which is improving the product experience, right? Which has been a complete miss in SMS. SMS was what SMS was 30 years, 40 years back. There's nothing that has changed in SMS. No. Why do you see change? How do you expect change in the way market responds?
A lot, believe it or not, we are nearly at the end of our time together. We should have had an hour for this panel, but we only have 30 minutes. I'm trying to keep roughly to time. Your closing remarks on it. What do we need to do? The people sitting in this room, it could be using MEF as a neutral platform to engage on it. What does the business messaging industry in India need to do to improve the situation, to efficiently grow it? Because let's say that the fragmented reactions by governments and authorities all around the world to COVID, whatever happened, whether you view it as excessive or not enough, whatever your viewpoint is, has changed things. And it, I suppose, accelerated business messaging in an unnatural way. But what do you see happening in the next year or two here in India?
See, the first thing is to support the first question and till the end of the session, whatever questions you have asked, it was very much focused about the small and medium enterprise segment. The very basic thing, what I understand is, if we go with the trend, SMS prices are going high, then I will raise my prices towards the higher side. Then maybe the enterprises and the smaller one may not get attracted towards this part of usage. Maybe the business model should be focused on use case basis. How many use cases you can develop for each segment, each industry or each company is different. They have a problem that can be solved by messaging. If the cost is prime focus, you can solve it by messaging.
Look, isn't this all about education? So platforms like at MEF to go and educate the mobile operator community as well. But it's not just the mobile operator community. It was mentioned in a comment earlier. I think it was Chris from Almeida from GTS earlier on made a point, and a good point, that I know when responses are made to mobile operators who are looking for a firewall, quite often you don't know exactly what the real traffic picture is, so you're firing blind in terms of your responses to a degree, and it's only when you're actually implemented and you see the real amount of traffic that you can really determine what the commercial model actually has to be to make it fly, and that as a result creates this unnaturally high situation. So it's not just mobile operators, it's...
So that is what I'm saying.
Well. So it's education.
It is us as CPaaS provider or as a CPaaS platform creator. You can't always see towards the mobile operator. They have their job, whatever they are doing, it's under their restriction. But we are the one who are touching base with the enterprises directly. We are responsible to carry out the traffic. We are responsible to educate them enough so that they can use this platform for various use cases, be it WhatsApp, SMS. If you want to increase usage on SMS, definitely build use cases that are easy to use for them at a minimal cost. Try to develop something, and then operators will follow. You don't have any encouragement for the operators unless they are encouraged to follow you.
It's about the partnerships. You need to partner with the mobile operators.
Yes.
Banu, very, very quickly, last words from a few of you down at this end. Very, very quickly. Any final comments?
To be honest, in Indian context, especially what I understood, right, in this segment working last decade or so, it's very different for different people, right? Especially when you talk about the small businesses, right? Some people, they understand the usefulness of the tool they want to have. For instance, WhatsApp people are using. It's not that they're not using. They might not be using official business API solution, but every person, almost every person is on WhatsApp already here in India, right? Now, they might want to use it, use other tools, but they really don't know how, number one. So this is where I think you mentioned that, maybe we can come and definitely educate them, right? They might not need all the tools as a CPaaS company we need.
Thank you. I know.
Different people, different use case, and different ways to reach out and ensure that they get better result.
Very quickly, Vinay.
I think to summarize this topic, it's key for all of us. And if you mentioned, the consumers are on the platforms, on the channels. The businesses are there. It's all about them finding value and creating more engagements on my channel of choice. And that will create the width versus the depth in one particular channel.
Thank you.
So just quickly on, regulation party said, I think a data privacy bill will decide the fate of WhatsApp and a lot of OTT players in times to come. It was supposed to be tabled this year, but it seems because of elections getting postponed. But that will define the future of how SMS grows, because your initial point was how SMS should be, volumes can be grown over the period in India. But the data privacy bill and the findings will be very interesting with that.
Fantastic. And go for it.
I think I echo most of it, but I think this conversational part of messaging will be a game changer. I think I truly believe that because, the moment of truth, you give the power to the consumer to interact, I think that will be a game changer.
Fantastic. And
yeah, and obviously digital is here to stay. So I think MEF and some of the other outreach programs to help CPaaS, people understand, or rather SMB customers understand that CPaaS is easy to adopt. And it's our responsibility to also make it easy for them to interact on the messaging channel.
And this is just a final thing I'd like to say. This is what we are going to be doing at MEF. So if you just type in RCS use cases into Google right now, you will find number 4 is MEF. You go straight to MEF, and the MEF members, like yourselves on stage, have real-life examples of RCS use cases. And I thought to myself last week, why on earth are we just doing it for RCS? We've got SMS. Hello? So what's going to happen is on the MEF website, we're going to be going out to all you MEF members here and asking you, so you can showcase on the MEF website, and I'm expecting hundreds, please, of real-life SMS use cases with brands, and this is what happened, and this was the result. So that's going to be up on the MEF website, and we're going to be doing the same for direct carrier billing as well, and anti-fraud on payments as well. So that will help give some real visibility and provide a real good knowledge base and resource. So I'd like to thank all the speakers. I appreciate all of you here left in the room. We're nearly there and finished with the event, but we have one more session, which will be very, very good. So thanks to all of you. And